You're standing in the lot, two trucks in front of you, a Ford on the left, a Chevy on the right, both shined up, both promising you 20 years of hard work. One of them is going to quietly drain your bank account, and the salesman walking towards you knows which one. Here's my verdict up front before I lose you. Between these two, one brand hides more expensive failures than the other, and the truth flips what most people believe. I've spent decades under these things, and I've watched the same trucks limp back into my bay again and again. I'm holding the single worst offender for the very end because it's backed by a dependability study most buyers never read, and it covers a run of model years you need to write down. This matters whether you're buying new, buying used, or you're already making payments on one right now. I still remember the first 2004 Ford F-150 that rolled into my bay, smoking white out the tailpipe at 60,000 miles. That was the day I stopped trusting the badge and started trusting the parts. So let me rank these honestly the way I'd tell my own brother, from the fifth worst all the way down to the one that scares me most. Let me start at number 5, and it's a Chevy, the Silverado and the Sierra 1500, the ones running the 5.3 liter V8, built roughly between 2007 and 2014. On paper, this is one of the most beloved engines Chevy ever put in a truck. Smooth, strong, cheap to feed. So why does it sit on my worst list at all? One reason. It drinks oil like it's thirsty for it. General Motors put a system on that engine called active fuel management, and the idea was fuel savings by shutting off 4 cylinders when you're cruising. Sounds smart. In practice, that system, paired with a weak set of piston rings and a little oil spraying valve inside the block, causes these engines to burn through oil without dripping a single drop on your driveway. I've had owners come in swearing they never leaked, and they're 2 quarts low at 3,000 miles. Here's what that cost you. If you catch it early, you're looking at maybe a couple $1,000s for cleaning and updated parts. If you ignore it and the oil level drops low enough, you starve a lifter, you wipe a camshaft, and now you're staring at a repair between $4,000 and $7,000, depending on how far it went. I've seen guys total out a perfectly good truck body over an engine that just needed better rings from the factory. So here's your takeaway on this one. If you're looking at a 5.3 from those years, pull the dipstick, then check it again after a good highway run. Watch the oil life. And if you own one already, you are going to want to hear the trick I'll give you in a few minutes, because there's a cheap way to fight this. That's number 5. Annoying, expensive, if ignored, but honestly, it's the mildest heartbreak on this list. But the next one climbs the ladder, because this is a truck millions of people bought thinking it was bulletproof, and it hides 2 failures at once. Number 4 is a Ford, and it stings because it's the F-150 everybody points to as the workhorse of America. Specifically, the trucks with the 5.4 liter Triton 3-valve V8, roughly 2004 through 2010. This engine looks tough, it sounds tough, and then it teaches you an expensive lesson about spark plugs. Let me explain, because this is the kind of thing no dealer ever tells you before you sign. Ford designed the spark plugs on that 3-valve engine in 2 pieces. Over time, carbon builds up in wells that plug into the cylinder head. So when a mechanic like me goes to do a routine tune-up, the plug snaps off and leaves half of itself stuck deep in your engine. A job that should cost a couple $100 turns into $600, $800, sometimes over $1,000, because we have to extract broken metal from every hole without dropping a piece into the cylinder. And that's the easy problem. The bigger one lives in the timing. These engines use cam phasers and a timing chain setup that gets noisy and sloppy as the miles pile on. You start it cold and you hear a rattle, like somebody shaking a coffee can full of bolts for a second or two. That rattle is your phasers and tensioners wearing out. Fix that properly, and you're between $2,000 and $3,000 in parts and labor, because we're deep into the front of that engine. Now, here's why I put Ford's 5.4 above Chevy's oil burner. The Chevy problem is one problem. The Ford 5.4 hits you twice, and it hits you on a truck people trusted with their livelihood. I've had contractors in my bay nearly in tears because their moneymaker was down for a week over a spark plug. So if you're shopping one of these, Ask when the plugs were last done and whether they came out clean. Listen at a cold start for that rattle and understand something bigger that's starting to take shape here. Both of these failures, the oil burning and the spark plugs, they weren't accidents. Somebody chose a cheaper design to save a few dollars per truck across millions of trucks. Somebody profited from you not knowing. Keep that in your mind, because it only gets worse from here. Therefore, we move to number 3, and now we leave the engines for a minute and talk about the thing that connects the engine to the road. Because a motor can run forever and still leave you stranded if what's behind it falls apart. Number 3 is the transmission, and this one lands on both brands, but I'm pinning it hardest on the newer General Motors trucks, the Silverado and Sierra, 1500 running the 8-speed automatic, roughly 2015 through 2019, especially behind the 6.2-liter V8. This is the truck people bragged about. Big power, fancy transmission, and a shudder that drove owners half insane. Here's what it feels like from the driver's seat. You're rolling along at maybe 35, 45 miles an hour, light on the pedal, and the whole truck shivers. Feels like you're driving over rumble strips on a smooth road. Feels like the driveline is trying to shake itself loose. Owners flooded the dealers, and for a long time the answer was a fluid flush and a shrug. A flush might quiet it for a while, then it comes right back. The real cause traced back to the transmission fluid itself and the torque converter clutch grabbing and slipping when it shouldn't. General Motors even faced a class action lawsuit over these shuddering transmissions, and thousands of owners piled into the complaint records at the Federal Safety Database. When it doesn't get fixed, you're not talking about a cheap job. A torque converter and valve body repair runs $2,000 to $3,000, and a full transmission replacement can push past $4,000 or $5,000 once the labor and parts are in. And before any Ford guys start celebrating, understand that Ford's 10-speed, the one they actually developed together with General Motors, has its own shudder and harsh shift complaints. Same family headache, different badge. So this failure is almost a tie. And that's exactly why it sits right in the middle of my countdown. It's the great equalizer. Neither brand gets to feel smug. But here's where I turn straight to you, because I know some of you watching are getting a knot in your stomach right now. Maybe you've got one of these trucks in your driveway. Maybe you just felt that shudder last week and told yourself it was the road. This next part is for you specifically, and it's going to save you a shop visit. If you own one of these trucks, or really any of the ones I'm ranking today, here's what you can do yourself this weekend in your own driveway without spending much at all. First, the oil burners. Get yourself a simple habit of checking your oil every single time you fill the tank, not once a month. Every fill, if you're a Chevy 5.3 owner, you can also buy a small inline device that plugs into your diagnostic port and keeps that active fuel management system from switching your cylinders off. It's around $100, and I've watched it slow the oil burning way down on trucks that were headed for trouble. That's $100 to protect a $5,000 engine. Second, for the transmission shudder. Pull your transmission dipstick if your truck still has one, or have the fluid level checked, and smell it and look at it. Good fluid is clean and reddish. If it's dark, cloudy, or smells burnt, that fluid is cooked, and you want it changed with the exact fluid the maker specifies, not whatever's cheapest on the shelf. On a lot of these trucks, getting to the correct updated fluid early is the difference between a $200 service and a $4,000 rebuild. Now think about the moment before any of this ever reaches your driveway. You're back in that lot, the salesman is smiling, and the only thing standing between you and a truck that hides one of these failures is knowing what to look for before you shake his hand. That's exactly what I put into the complete lemon-proof bundle, and it's the permanent version of everything I've been showing you today. Inside, the truck buyer's specific checklist gives you 6 simple go or no-go criteria you run right there in the lot. The reliability matrix separates the marketing hype from the hard repair data, and the deep sections teach you to read those complaint records and technical service bulletins the same way a safety engineer does, so you catch a bad engine family before it catches you. Here's something you can do for free tonight before you spend a dime on anything. Pull up the Federal Safety Database on your phone, type in that Ford 5.4 or that EcoBoost F-150, and read the real owner complaints yourself. because every volume I built stands on documented repair data, not manufacturer spin, and you can verify that with your own eyes. The fastest way to get the books is to scan the QR code right there on your screen, or go to the link in the description or the pinned comment. And here's the honest reason to grab it now, not someday. If you own one of these trucks, a repair clock is already running whether you know it or not, and the checks in there cost you nothing to start using. But before you go buy anything, do the free work first, because right now I'm going to walk you through exactly what you can do yourself this weekend in your own driveway without spending much at all. Third, for the spark plug trucks, if you own that Ford 5.4 and you don't know when the plugs were last changed, don't wait until they're seized and solid. Getting them out at the right interval with the right technique and a soak of penetrating oil is a night and day difference in cost. And any cold start rattle that lasts more than a second, recorded on your phone, that recording is worth its weight in gold when you're trying to prove the problem. Here's the honest truth I want you to sit with. None of these checks require you to be a mechanic. They require you to pay attention, because the people who built these trucks and the people who sell you the extended warranties are counting on you not paying attention. That extended warranty they push at the signing table, it's priced by people who know exactly which of these failures is coming and when. They're betting on your truck breaking. Let that sink in. Therefore, let's climb to number 2. And this is the one where the money gets truly frightening, because now we're talking diesel. Number 2 is the Ford Super Duty with the 6.0 liter Power Stroke diesel built between 2003 and 2007. This is the engine that broke Ford's relationship with a whole generation of diesel buyers. And I want to be careful here, because when a 6.0 is done right, guys love them and run them forever. But out of the box, from the factory, this engine had a stack of problems that turned trust into lawsuits. Let me walk you through what I pulled apart on these. The head gaskets fail because the head bolts stretch and can't hold the heads down under boost, so you get coolant where it shouldn't be and white smoke rolling out the back. To fix it right, we have to pull the cab clean off the frame, and that alone is a massive labor job. A proper head gasket fix with upgraded studs runs anywhere from $3,000 to over $5,000. Then there's the oil cooler that clogs, the EGR cooler that cracks and dumps coolant, the injectors, the high-pressure oil system, the little sensor that fails and leaves you stranded in a parking lot. I've seen owners spend $8,000, $10,000 chasing all of it on a truck they thought was going to be the last truck they ever needed to buy. Here's the part that turned my stomach when I learned it. The trouble with that engine got so bad that Ford and the company that built the engine ended up in a legal fight against each other over it. The two companies that took your money pointed fingers at one another in court while you sat in my bay holding a repair bill. That's not a rumor. That's a matter of record. And the buyer, the working man who needed that truck to tow his trailer and earn his living, he was the one left holding the bag. So if you're shopping a used Super Duty from those years, you need to know whether that 6.0 has been what we call bulletproofed, meaning upgraded head studs, a better oil cooler, and the exhaust recirculation problems addressed. A bulletproof 6.0 with paperwork can be a good truck. A stock, high mileage, never touched one is a gamble that can cost you more than the truck is worth. As for records, walk away if they can't show you. Now you feel the stakes tightening. We've gone from burning a little oil to snapping spark plugs to shaking transmissions to a diesel that can eat $10,000. And you're probably thinking the worst spot has to be another big diesel, right? Something even more brutal, even more expensive. That's exactly what most people assume. And that assumption is the trap. Before I give you number 1, let me tell you where I found the answer, because this isn't me shooting from the hip. I went into the long-term dependability data, the kind of study that tracks problems per 100 vehicles over years of real ownership, and I cross-checked it against the complaint records sitting in the Federal Safety Database and the technical service bulletins the manufacturers quietly send to dealers. Those bulletins are the key. A technical service bulletin is basically the maker admitting in writing to their own shops that a part fails and telling them how to fix it without ever putting out a public recall that would cost them money or embarrassment. That's where the truth hides. Not in the commercials. In the paperwork they hope you never read. And here's what that paperwork revealed and why it flips the whole question of Ford versus Chevy on its head. Number one, the least dependable of them all isn't the old diesel everybody fears. It's the modern gas F-150 running the 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6, especially the first generation from about 2011 to 2016, and the twin problems that came with the whole modern Ford move to turbocharged, cam-phased, 10-speed, everything. Let me tell you why this one takes the worst spot, because it surprised even me. Everyone was told the EcoBoost was the future. Big towing numbers, better fuel economy, all the power of a V8 from a smaller, smarter engine, and that marketing worked. Ford sold these by the millions. But underneath the badge, this engine brought a cluster of failures that keep my bay busy to this day. Start with the cam phasers. Same family of problem I mentioned on the old 5.4, but now it followed Ford right into their newest engines, the EcoBoost and even the 5.0 V8. You start the truck cold and you hear that rattle, that ugly metallic knock for a second or two before the oil pressure builds. That's the phasers wearing out, and on these modern engines, the repair runs commonly between $2,000 and $3,000, sometimes more when the timing chain and guides go with it. Ford put out technical service bulletins on this exact noise. They knew. Then there's the intercooler condensation problem. On the early EcoBoost trucks, moisture collects in the intercooler, and when you're pulling a load or getting on the throttle hard, that engine gulps the condensation and stumbles, misfires, sometimes bucks like it's going to stall. Owners flooded the forums and the complaint databases with it. Add in early timing chain stretch, carbon building up on the intake valves because it's a direct injected engine that never washes its own valves, and turbochargers that aren't cheap when they let go, and you've got a truck that nickel and dimes you into the thousands. Now here's the twist that answers the question in the title. When you line up the long-term data, the modern turbocharged, overcomplicated Ford full-size trucks have been posting worse dependability marks than the comparable Chevy in several of these recent years. The very thing that was sold as advanced, the EcoBoost and the 10-speed and all those electronic cam phasers, is the thing dragging Ford's dependability down. So to the question, which one is less dependable? The honest answer from the paperwork, model year for model year in that modern stretch, leans Ford. Not by a landslide, but it leans forward. And it leans hardest right where buyers feel safest on the best-selling truck in the country. That's the part the marketing buried. The story you were told is that adding turbos and gears and computers made the truck better. The truth, preserved in those service bulletins and dependability studies, is that every one of those additions is one more thing that fails, one more repair with your name on it, one more reason that shiny new truck is back in a shop like mine before it's paid off. Somebody built it that way to hit a fuel economy number and a horsepower headline, and they let you carry the cost. But I'm not going to leave you standing there feeling helpless, because knowing this is your power. If you're buying one of these EcoBoost trucks, used or new, do three things. Listen at a stone cold start for that phaser rattle, and if you hear it, use it to negotiate or walk. Ask whether the intake valves have ever been cleaned, a walnut blasting service, because on a direct injected engine over 80 or 100,000 miles, that carbon is real. And check whether the truck has had its cam phaser and timing work done under any of those bulletins, because a truck that's already been fixed on Ford's dime is worth more than a time bomb that hasn't. And if you already own one, don't panic. Get to that cold start habit, record any rattle, change your oil more often than the computer tells you to, because clean oil is the single best defense those phasers have. Use the right oil weight, the exact one in the manual, because these systems are picky and the wrong oil makes the rattle worse. You can protect that truck. You just have to know what you're fighting, and now you do. So let me put the whole ladder back together for you one last time, because you came here for a ranking you can actually act on. Fifth, the Chevy 5.3 oil burner from 2007 to 2014, manageable if you watch the oil. Fourth, the Ford 5.4 Triton with the exploding spark plugs and rattling phasers from 2004 to 2010. Third, the transmission shudder that hits both brands, Worst on the General Motors 8-speed and Ford's 10-speed. Second, the Ford 6.0 Power Stroke diesel from 2003 to 2007, a $10,000 heartbreak unless it's been bulletproofed. And first, the least dependable of the bunch when you follow the data honestly, the modern 3.5 EcoBoost F-150 and the whole turbocharged, over-computerized direction it represents. Here's the thing. I need you to walk away understanding. Neither of these companies is your friend. Chevy cut corners on rings and fuel systems to sell you economy. Ford chased headlines with turbos and gears and left the reliability behind. And the dealerships selling you the extended warranty at the signing table already know every failure I just listed because they get the same bulletins I do. The difference is they profit when you don't know. And I've got nothing to sell you but the truth. What you just got is the honest order, the one built from repair bills and paperwork instead of commercials, the kind of ranking that can keep an extra $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 in your pocket over the life of a truck. You're the kind of buyer who wants the real order, not the marketing order, or you wouldn't have made it this far with me. You already know what to do the next time you're standing in that lot with a salesman walking towards you. You pop the hood, you start it cold, you ask for the records, and you trust the paperwork over the pitch. So tell me, which one are you running right now, and where are you watching me from? Are you a Chevy 5.3 guy babying your oil, or a Ford EcoBoost owner who just realized what that cold start rattle really is? And be honest, do you think I ranked that EcoBoost too harshly at number one, or did I finally say what you already suspected? Drop it in the comments right now. I read them, and I answer the ones that'll help the next guy shopping. If you're the kind of driver who refuses to get burned by a badge and a slick sales pitch, you belong with the rest of us who check the oil at every fill and record the rattles. Stick around, protect what you drive, and keep using what I show you to stay one step ahead of the shop. Because next time I'm putting the diesels head-to-head, the Duramax against the Cummins, against the Power Stroke, and I'm going to tell you which one of those injection pumps can grenade your whole engine with a single tank of bad fuel and a repair bill north of $12,000. You are not going to want to buy a used diesel until you've heard that one. I'll see you there. Before you go, here's where this really pays off. This video gave you the overview, but inside the Garage Bench Club, I walk you through the full worst to first ranking, and in there you can ask me your own question about your own truck, and a real person answers you, me, not a machine. You belong in here with us. Just point your phone's camera at the code on screen, and you can cancel anytime. Now, before you buy your next truck, there are some brand new models you'll really want to steer clear of. I'll show you exactly which ones and why right here. Let's take a look together